Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video. We're going to be taking two of my favorite sports, MMA and tennis, and talking about tennis players I think I could beat in a fight. I think the tiers are pretty self-explanatory, so let's get right into it. Let's start off with the GOAT, Novak Djokovic. Coming off the Olympic win, I was rooting for him. I'm super happy. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I know that his fans are going to come for me because Novak's fans, I have to admit it as a Novak fan myself, they are the most toxic and just delusional fan base out there. By delusional, I mean Novak is the undisputed GOAT, that's a fact. But the fact of the matter is that Novak's fans, they act like this guy is the messiah. I've seen comments where you're the greatest human being to ever live and all this stuff. It's bro, what the hell? What is going on where we're comparing Novak Djokovic to Jesus or some religious figures? It's getting kind of crazy. But, Novak, he is the GOAT. But let's be honest here. He is he's a little bit of a soy boy sometimes. He gets the water bottle dropped on him. And I get that it was unsuspecting. It was the back of the head. But then he crumbles and it's not a good look. And in terms of a fight, I don't think he'd fare that well. On top of that, I think he's vegan. If my memory serves me correct, he's got a kind of unique diet. And he's 6'2" and 170 pounds. I've got an inch on him and also got 20 pounds. And he strikes me as, he's mentally tough, but I think that if you put him into a fight, he's not going to do that well because he's just so small. And I feel that weight is definitely going to be a huge disadvantage to him. And the diet as well is not going to help him in terms of fighting. I think cardio-wise, he's going to do great, but I think in a fighting environment where you need to have that raw power, I don't think he's going to have that even though he is, a world-class athlete. I think more of that has to do with cardio and just pure endurance and mental fortitude rather than quick twitch muscle fibers and stuff like that. I think Djokovic, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I know I'm going to get hate for this, but I think I'm painting the walls. Djokovic, if you get in a fight with me, dude, it's over. Don't come to school tomorrow. I'm joking. But, with Djokovic, I think most likely, if you put us in a cage, I think I'm coming out. Now, there is a thing where, there's kind of a mythical tennis player out there, and that is Djokovic on his revenge tour. Whenever Djokovic loses to somebody, he always comes back and whoops their ass. So maybe after the first fight, Djokovic would come back, 20 pounds heavier, nice and muscled out. He's got some training in, and then he'd probably whoop my ass. But I think on the first roundabout, I think I'm going to win that one. Let's move on to Frances Tiafoe. Frances Tiafoe, dude. This guy, I'm about to go on a little bit of a rant on this guy, dude. Frances Tiafoe, I always see in the player interviews, those small little YouTube videos we're talking about, who's the loudest on tour? And everyone's like, oh, it's Frances Tiafoe. Who's the funniest guy? It's Frances Tiafoe. Frances Tiafoe is not really that funny. I think he's had a few moments where there was some moaning or something in his match and he yelled out it's not that good. That was kind of funny. But most of the time, this guy's just a complete and utter mumble mouth. He's like mumble mouth Leon Edwards. And he's got that posture where he's just walking around all caked up, just showing it off, kind of zesty. He's got a cool backstory, but I cannot stand the guy. I can't stand the way this guy talks. He's always mumbling. I can't take it. I think I'm going to see red in the fight, but I think he's going to have a good chance. He's got a good frame. He's nice and sturdy. So, there's a chance he could win. There's a chance, he could beat me. I think most likely Frances Tiafoe is, I think he's going to get it done, honestly. I think he's going to be able to beat me, even though, I might have a little bit more knowledge on him in the game. I think his pure athleticism, the zesty walk, that counterweight, which is his ass, I think it's going to help him with the takedown defense. I think he's going to get it done against me. So most likely I will lose to Frances Tiafoe. Let's move on to Carlos Alcaraz. The guy's supposed to be the next big thing. He lost the Olympics, but it was an extremely close, match. Cincinnati, we don't talk about that. But when it comes to Carlos Alcaraz, I see so many people out there saying, guys, Carlos Alcaraz, when he's on, dude, it's on clay or grass, no one can beat him. Do I need to say some names? John Jones? Anderson Silva? Tyron Woodley could probably beat this guy. So when it comes to Carlos Alcaraz, he's a great tennis player. But I think in terms of a fight, I'm not sure how well he's going to fare, dude. But, I think most likely he's going to have the pure athleticism, the quick twitch muscle fibers that you need. I think he's going to be able to, make some reads. He's got good reflexes. So because of that, I think, it's a toss-up because I do have the size advantage on him. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I think Alcaraz's height is listed as 6'1", but when I look at him and I look at him in comparison to like Djokovic and those pictures that are side by side, he looks like he's 5'11" to me. Which, if anything, is a compliment because he's 5'11" and he still has great serves, even though he's relatively on the shorter side of things. So, because of that, if he's 5'11", and he is very strong, he's sturdy, but he's on the shorter side, so I could have a size advantage on him. And on top of that, if it's a 3-rounder, then his cardio might not come into play. So because of that, maybe I could give myself some advantage there because I don't think he's going to have much knowledge on the MMA game. So because of that, for now, I think the athleticism is just going to come into play, though. I think he's most likely going to beat me. Let's move on to Alexander Bublik, however you want to say it. The Kazakh nightmare, if you know what I'm saying. He's 6'5", I think he's 180 pounds. The thing is, this guy never tries in tennis, which he's literally, that's his profession, so why would he try an MMA fight? I'm going to say most likely it's going to be tougher than Djokovic, but I think I'm most likely going to win, even though he's got 2 inches on me. I think I'm going to be able to use my weight to kind of hold him down. I think I'm able to get some takedowns. At most, he could try to strike me at range, but I feel like, the fact he just doesn't seem to have that grit in him compared to some of the other guys on tour, I feel like that's going to be a big advantage for me. I feel like he's not going to be able to bite down the mouthpiece and get dirty. So because of that, hopefully I can turn into a dogfight like my boy Bully B against Leon Edwards and, beat the guy who's, bigger than me, even though he's a little bit skinnier than I am. Let's move on to Rafael Nadal. The thing about Rafael Nadal is that he is it's rigged from the start. I don't stand a chance against Rafael Nadal. I'll be honest with you guys. Nadal could have literally done any sport he wanted to since he was a kid. He could have done soccer, he could have done, tennis. I feel like if this guy wanted to get into wrestling and become an Olympic wrestler, he probably could have done that too. He's just such a naturally gifted athlete. On top of that, he's got some he's got some kind of weird antics. I feel like Nadal is going to shoot a double leg on me, and it's not going to be to get me to the ground. It's so he can stiff my ass. Because we know about, Nadal's antics and his habits and some of the weird things that he does. So Nadal, I feel like most likely he's going to take me down. There's going to be some grunting involved. If you turn off the TV and you just hear the sound, it's going to sound kind of weird. But, with Nadal, I feel like most likely he's going to get it done. He's going to get dirty. He's going to get up in there. I feel like he's going to, maybe he's going to try to north-south me, no gi, if you know what I'm saying. So because of that, Nadal, I'm going to give him rig from the start, most likely going to beat me. And let's move on to another fighter, or another tennis player, I should say. But, this guy could be a fighter, but, based on what he said in the past. Daniil Medvedev, my boy, he called out, Tsitsipas for being a small kid who doesn't know how to fight. So Medvedev probably has been in his fair share of street fights. I think the experience is going to make it. So because of that, I feel like most likely Medvedev is going to be able to beat me in a fight. I think he's got the grit. I think he's got the heart. And I think that, he's got 3 inches on me. He might be the same weight as I am, 190 pounds. He might be a little bit smaller. I'm not entirely sure. But the thing is that I feel like he's got the grit, and I feel like he would have the brains to use his range as a striker, whereas Bublik might not have the brains. So because of that, I feel like Daniil Medvedev will most likely beat me in a fight. We move on to Bjorn Borg. Bjorn Borg, a guy who retired too early. Could have been the GOAT. Woulda, coulda, if doesn't exist, as they say. But the thing is that Bjorn Borg, I feel like I've got the size advantage on him, and on top of that, another thing about Bjorn Borg is that he just, if we're assuming that he's in his physical prime, so this is like 1970s, 1980s Bjorn Borg, he's gonna have, he's very athletic, but the thing is that he's not as big as I am, and on top of that, he's not gonna have the knowledge about the MMA game. He hasn't seen, the MMA game in its current form. Keep in mind, back then, MMA really wasn't even a thing. So because of that, I feel like he's gonna be one of the easier matchups for me. Let's move on to Tsonga. Tsonga, I feel like, is most likely going to beat me. He is, I think, the same height as I am, but he's probably heavier than I am. I feel like he's going to be able to have that explosiveness, the power. I feel like he's going to have the grit as well. He was always a fighter during, his time on the tour, even though, he played in the most competitive era, so it's not really like we can say that he didn't accomplish much, because he definitely accomplished a lot in his career. But I feel like most likely Tsonga is going to be able to he's going to be able to pull off some, some crafty moves, if you know what I'm saying. I'm trying to fill a void, if you guys get what I'm saying right now. A void that's been made in the recent YouTube space, RIP. Let's move on to Nick Kyrgios. Kyrgios, I'm about to go on a generational rant on this guy. Well, let me just leave him here for now while I keep you in suspense. Let me get a drink of coffee real quick. Alright. When it comes to Nick Kyrgios, the thing about Nick Kyrgios is, this guy, I always see him, complaining, where he's like, I could have been a basketball player, mate. I could have done D1 basketball if my family allowed me to play basketball instead of forcing me into tennis. He's always like, talking about, he's like, yeah, I like Kobe. He's got the Mamba mentality and all this. I can't really do an Australian accent or a Kyrgios impression, but he's always, looking up to Kobe, talking about the Mamba mentality, and there is some good stuff Kyrgios has done. Like, I appreciated the whole, when the whole Novak fiasco was going on in the Australian Open, he stuck up for Novak. I respect that. But the thing is that Nick Kyrgios, he doesn't have an ounce of, mental resilience. He's always freaking out. He's shouting at ball boys, and then he's like, I was just having a joke with him, mate, even though, it's like, dude, you're like, you're chastising the ball boy, and the ball boy's like a 9-year-old kid. He doesn't know any better, and then he's like, I'm just having a joke with him. Like, why are you freaking out? I'm just having a joke. Why are you guys booing me? So Nick Kyrgios, pisses me off. He's complaining about the fact that he was made fun of as a kid for being a little bit bigger. Do you understand, Kyrgios, that some of us got beat as kids and we don't complain? I'm sorry that you make $20 million a year, playing tennis for however much it is. You made $20 million so far, and you got called fat growing up. That's, big fucking whoop, dude. So grow the fuck up, Kyrgios. Novak, the GOAT. I saw the little, interview podcast they had where Novak was like, give me a few months, I'll make you a Wimbledon champion. And you'd be an idiot not to take that deal from the GOAT himself. And Kyrgios doesn't want to take it because he'd rather just cry about his life and be like, I'm so, I have such a sad life because I was forced into tennis and I should have been a basketball player. No one fucking cares. I think Kyrgios I'm going to destroy. And this guy, he just needs Volk in his corner going, stand up for yourself. But the thing is that that's never going to happen, and if it did, then maybe he could win some Grand Slams, but it's never going to happen because Kyrgios doesn't want it. Kyrgios doesn't have the Mamba mentality to really pursue greatness, and because of that, I feel like I'm going to get it done against him in the octagon. It's over for him. Put the fries in the bag. I'm going to retire you, Kyrgios. It's over. I think past the first round, he's going to break down mentally, and I think, once I get a few takedowns on him, he's just going to mentally kind of disintegrate. So, but the thing is that I will admit he's a big man. He's got a good size on him. And, I think that because of that, there is a chance that, he'd be tougher than some of these other guys where I would have the size advantage. So with Kyrgios, I don't think I'll have the size advantage, but just the fact that I don't think he's got the grit for it. That's the main thing. And that maybe I could, have some psychological warfare going into it. So because of that, I think with Kyrgios, I'd favor my chances. I'll put him in tough fight, but I win. I'm not going to put him in the easy pickings just because of the fact that maybe he could see red. Maybe he could finally decide to apply himself in life. I'm going on a generational rant here on Kyrgios. Let's move on to Andy Roddick. Andy Roddick gives me the 2000s high school bully vibe. Like, he's going to shove me in the locker. He's like the same size as me. I think he might be heavier than I am. But, Andy Roddick, I'm gonna say most likely he beats me. I think he's gonna shove me into a locker. He's gonna call me some names. He's gonna offer me a knuckle sandwich. And because of that, I'm gonna put Andy Roddick in the tough fight, but I lose here. Gael Monfils, similar boat as Rafael Nadal, just an insanely gifted athlete, got completely screwed over on the Cincinnati draw. But, when it comes to Gael Monfils, I think most likely he's gonna beat me in a fight. I think he's going to find the range. I feel like he's going to be able to time the takedowns, to not get taken down. I feel like he's just going to have the speed to not be able to get, not get caught by me. And you know what they say, you know, speed beats power. And even though I feel like I got a little bit more weight behind my punches, maybe, you know, he's just going to have the speed to avoid them. He's going to have the reflexes. And I think he's also got the grit. So because of that, I'll put Gael Monfils in the tough fight, but I lose tier. Just because, you know, he's not as dense as someone like Nadal, and he's also, I feel like Nadal is just gonna have like Nadal probably wants to take me down and like, you know, turn me over and start sniffing. all respect to Nadal, by the way. I respect all these players. You know, I'm just kind of this video is kind of satire. But let's move on to the GOAT. Everyone knows it, dude. Roger Federer. Got the Novak fans giving me engagement. Roger Federer. The thing about him is that, and here's the thing about Federer, which I honestly, like, this might be the thing that I respect the most about Federer, is the fact that I believe he has never retired in a match. And what that shows to me is just immense heart and grit. And I feel like when it comes down to it, Federer does have, you know, very good mental fortitude, even though I understand the 40-15, the fact that he's not on the same level as Nadal or Djokovic, but he's still like world class, you know. Guys, at worst, he is the third best tennis player of all time. I think he's number 2. But the thing is that Federer, he's got, you know, he's never retired in a match. You can't say that about Djokovic. And Federer, I feel like the thing about him is that he's going to be able to, he's going to have the aura maxing. I feel like going into, I'm just going to have so much respect for him that I'm not going to be able to perform. If you know what I'm saying. Like, you know, it's just going to be, I'm going to be under the headlights, you know, wherever you go. Federer's the hometown favorite. So I feel like Federer, he's going to be able to just get a lot of respect from me. So I might be a little bit inactive in that fight. I'm not going to see red against him. And I feel like he's going to be composed. And on top of that, I think that, you know, Federer carries a lot of weight in his legs, which would be good for takedown defense. And on top of that, I feel like Federer could do a good job of, I feel like, you know, getting explosive with it, timing me against the cage, maybe closing the distance, having the grit. I feel like he does have the grit, even though, like, you know, he seems, even though he's more composed than the other big three, you know, he doesn't grunt as much. He's much more, he seems, you know, more relaxed. But I feel like deep down, you know, we've seen it. He does have the grit, he does have the tenacity. So because of that, on top of the fact that, you know, just the sheer aura maxing, as, you know, as we would say nowadays, I'm gonna put Federer and rig from the start. Even though he's got Ung status, you know, he's got Ung status now. He's gonna get it done. He's a veteran. We move on to John Isner. John Isner is just a massive dude. This could apply to, you know, Karlovic and, you know, Opelka as well. Kind of the archetype of those players where they're very tall. I feel like Isner, the thing is, I could hope for takedowns, and maybe, you know, the thing is though, he's a big guy. He's like, you know, nearing 7 feet tall, probably 230 pounds, I'm assuming, maybe 220 at the very, like, you know, at the least. So because of that, I feel like he's going to be able to hold me off on the takedowns. I'm not sure if he could get me down, just because, you know, there's this thing where you got, like, you know, the stocky man sometimes kind of has the advantage in the takedown defense department. We've seen it with Volk versus Islam, for example. But when it comes down to, you know, John Isner, I think there's a chance that I could, you know, try to, you know, make it dirty, try to get in the pocket. The thing is, you know, John Isner, all due respect to him, he does have Ung status now. I think he's over 40 years old now. So because of that, you know, he's not in his physical prime. And because of that, I mean, even if he is in his physical prime, though, that's going to change things up a little bit. I think most likely he's going to decision me. I feel like it's going to be, he's going to have like a little Alexander Volkov style, where he's going to keep me at range, get some striking in. You know, he's going to be a little bit of a sniper at range. But I think he's going to have he's not going to be as fast. I don't think he's going to be a fast guy. He doesn't strike me as, you know, having some super fast twitch muscles. So because of that, I'll put him on the lower end of the tough fight, but I lose tier. We could move on to McEnroe. McEnroe, similar story to Bjorn Borg, but I think he's going to be tough. I feel like McEnroe he's just going to be angry, so it might be a little bit more difficult to try to contain him. I feel like he's someone who might see red and just start going off. But the thing is that, you know, if it's a prime McEnroe, and this is like, you know, 1980s McEnroe, he doesn't have the knowledge of the current MMA game. He's not going to know about the moves. He's not going to be aware of, a Darce choke, for example, or what to do if he gets put into a guillotine, right? He's not going to be aware of these things. And on top of that, the size advantage. So I feel like most likely I'm going to be able to beat McEnroe. But just to show some respect, no, I'll keep him towards the easier side. We can move on to Andy Murray. Andy Murray, same size as me. I think he might be a little bit lighter because tennis players are usually skinnier. But when it comes down to Andy Murray, I love this guy. He's an extremely, extremely boring player. I have to admit it. I love Andy Murray. I appreciate all that he's accomplished. But the fact of the matter is you cannot watch an interview with this guy and not, that's basically like a melatonin substitute. An interview with this guy, the best rallies are where he's basically just pushing for dear life. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm disrespecting everybody right now. But Andy Murray, I feel like most likely, prime Andy Murray, he's going to have the grit. He's going to be able to try to beat me. So because of that, Andy Murray, I'm going to say I think he's going to get it done. The only thing I could hope for is that I've got more knowledge than him when it comes down to it. And I could try to make use of that knowledge, but I still think he's got the athleticism. He's got that grit. So I'll respect that. Let's move on to the Kokkinakis. All right. I don't really keep up with tennis gossip, okay? But, I have to Google these guys to get their headshots. And I saw that with Kokkinakis. I think there was like a headline or something where he was talking about how he wants to date Elena Rybakina, who is Rybakina, however you want to say it, okay? Elena, the Wimbledon queen. You're not going to call out my future wife like that, dude. I'm going to see red in the cage. I'm going to go after this guy with everything. All right. I'm throwing the kitchen sink at this guy. Yeah, it's all over. Don't come to school. I can't say that one, but it's over for this guy. He's going to have to retire after I'm done with him. So because of that, I'm going to see red. I'm going to have to fight for my future wife's honor. So because of that, I'm going to put him in a tough fight, but I win tier. Let's move on to Pete Sampras. Honestly, Pete Sampras nowadays, people forget, man. Pete Sampras, dude, this guy is like underrated, like heavily, especially by like, current players or current fans who like, don't really watch the older era of tennis. This guy was a monster back then. Pistol Pete, dude, he was actually a monster. The slams, everything that he's done, not just the grand slams, but the shot that he had where he would just the slam dunk, I think was what it was called, the overhead. I feel like he's going to have that vet status. He's going to know what to do. He's going to be able to, time my takedowns. He's going to be able to, get dirty with it. So because of that, I respect Pistol Pete. On top of it, I feel like he's honorable. He's a very honorable guy. So, because of that, I feel like he's going to be really calm and collected, and he's going to just wear me down, over 3 rounds or 5 rounds, whatever it is. I feel like most likely Pistol Pete gets it done. Let's move on to Ben Shelton. Big Ben Shelton. This guy, kind of a menace right now. I think most likely Ben Shelton, I'm going to put him, he's 6'4" and like 190 pounds. So we're roughly the same size. He's got like an inch on me. But when it comes down to Ben Shelton, the thing is that Ben Shelton, he's got the current knowledge of MMA. I don't know if he trains, but I'm assuming that, he might watch from time to time because it's pretty common nowadays, for people to watch UFC, especially like, guys in our age range. I feel like it's one of the more common things to do. It's right up there with basketball and, NBA. It's working its way up there. It's not as popular as those sports yet, but it's getting up there. So he's going to know about some of the tricks. He's going to know about, the takedowns I'm going to shoot. He's going to know about the, maybe some of the chokes. He's going to know he's going to know what to prepare for. So because of that, I feel like, and on top of that, just the raw athleticism, there is a chance that he could win. But I've got a protocol, dude. I feel like, I want to try to get that Dagestani handcuff on him. I'm going to go for I've got a Ben Shelton protocol just in case, I see this guy in real life, what I need to do if he tries to go rogue on me, if he tries to hang up the phone on me. And because of that, I feel like my planning is going to come into play. I'm going to go for, try to hold him against the cage, get the clinch so I can make work against a bigger opponent and try to get him to the ground. And then hopefully from there, just hold him down, a boring decision win. But I think against Ben Shelton, I could try to get it done. He's got the explosiveness, he's got the power, but I feel like he just doesn't have the complete knowledge. And, he's lacking some of that, that experience right now. So I feel like I can make use of that and try to beat him. Let's move on to Jack Sock. Sold us out to play pickleball. I respect it, honestly. He's probably making, some decent money while doing half the labor. So Jack Sock, he's got the daggy beard. What else do I need to say? Jack Sock, I feel like he's also, I wouldn't surprise me if he's done some wrestling. Would not surprise me at all. So because of that, I'm going to say it's rigged from the start. I feel like he gets it done. Jack Sock is up there with the other guys. He's just got that, American bully persona as well. He's a nice guy, but I feel like deep down he'd be willing to little bro me in the cage. Let's move on to Diego Schwartzman. Now there is like an old saying, right? And I think it's usually like people will say this in like cave diving or something like that, where they're like, fear an old man in like a profession where most people die young, right? And that the idea is that, if you have like an older guy, for example, in like cave diving, where most people are gonna die when they're like 30, 40 because it's so dangerous. The guy who's like 60 and up has been doing it. There's something special about him, right? And I feel like the same thing can apply in a sport where most people are, usually 6 foot plus nowadays. And Diego Schwartzman is just 5'7", or I think at the shortest 5'9", and he's still killing it. Still doing it, great. I know now he's older, it's not the same, but in his prime he was, doing immensely well for a guy who's of shorter stature, or, relative to tennis standards. And because of that, I feel like he can get it done against me. I think he's going to have the stocky advantage to, defend the takedowns. He's also going to be able to have the grit. I think he's going to have the heart. And because of that, I'm going to put him in a tough fight, but I lose here. There's a chance I could just try to get the sheer power on him, go for the Ilia Topuria kind of knockout. But the thing is that I will acknowledge that he's just got the sheer power, sheer athleticism and grit. I think he has that. I feel like this is a guy who's been put up against a lot of adversity and he's always overcome it, and I respect that. So because of that, I feel like most likely he's going to get it done against me. We can move on to Alex de Minaur, the Demon. So when it comes to the Demon, I feel like most likely I'm going to win. This little rat bastard, I know what he did. You know what you did, man. the whole Australian Open thing where I think he was trying to get Novak deported or something like that. He was in favor of deporting Novak. That was like, that put a stain on me because I was just like, dude, that's not cool. It's like, you always want to see Nadal playing at, Roland Garros. It's the same thing with Novak in the Australian Open. And that put a bad stain in my mouth for, the Demon. And because of that, I feel like the Demon, on top of that, I feel like the Demon, he's like 6 feet tall. So I got a few inches on him. I think he's, not that, I think he's 170 pounds, maybe at most, probably 175. I don't think he's that heavy. So I'm going to have a size advantage on him. He's got the speed. I can't deny that. He's got speed. He's got, the athleticism. But when you're in a cage, how long can you run around for, man? I feel like, if it's like, a 5-round fight, maybe he can, just out cardio me. But in a 3-rounder, I feel like most likely I'm going to get it done against him. And I feel like I'm gonna avenge my boy Novak. Even I know Novak avenged himself against, he got his revenge against the Demon himself. But I'm just gonna make sure that he really learned his lesson. You don't get to talk about the GOAT like that. Let's move on to Andre Agassi. Dude, Andre Agassi, I love this guy. He's got the most beautiful two-hander I've ever seen. And I feel like he's got that locker room, he's got that locker room, he can bully me deep down kind of thing in him as well. He's from that era. But the thing about Andre Agassi, and that kind of pisses me off, is that I feel like I've seen things where he's like complaining about, oh, my dad used to bring me out and he used to like, yell at me and make me hit 5,000 balls a day. Bro, you made like millions of dollars in the long run. Like that made you who you are. Like you should kind of be thankful. Like I understand that it might have been traumatizing in the moment, but sometimes, pressure makes diamonds, if you know what I'm saying. Like I don't see Francis Ngannou complaining that he had to swim over to France like 3 times over. Like, he just did it. He doesn't complain about it. He talks about it, but he doesn't complain about it. That's what made him who he is. Whereas with Andre Agassi, sometimes I get the little whiny boy feelings from him, but, it is what it is. You gotta respect the playing style. I respect, all that he's accomplished. An amazing player. And I feel like, most likely I'm gonna win. I do want to respect and put him in the higher tier, but I feel like the thing is that I feel like I'm bigger than him, and on top of that, I think that he just doesn't have that same composure that some of the other guys have in the rig from the start tier, or the, tough fight but I lose, in terms of, he does have composure, but I feel like I'm just going to have the size advantage on him. And because of that, But I could see him having some power, though. So because of that, I'll put him in a tough fight, but I lose most likely tier. Let's move on to Tsitsipas. Small kid doesn't know how to fight. Is it even a question? Is it even a question, guys? Okay, but he's big. I'll have to admit he's big. He's 6'4". I think 200 pounds or something like that. So he's a big guy. Maybe, if Paula Badosa's in the crowd, he might start going crazy on me. So, you got to factor that in, I guess. So because of that, there is a chance, maybe the on-court coaching, his dad coming into the, yelling at him from time to time, he might pick up something. So because of that, there's a chance I could lose to Tsitsipas. But I think most likely, I feel like, I'm going to get it done. I feel like after the first round, he's going to mentally crumble. So because of that, I think I get it done against Tsitsipas. But there you have it. These are the tennis players I think I could beat in a fight. This is, just a for fun video. It's just not meant to be serious. No, this actually is a serious video, guys. This is definitive. It's scientifically proven. You cannot disagree with this. It cannot be any other way. But let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below over tennis players who you think could beat in a fight. Who do you think would make it the farthest in an MMA career? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And check out some of my other content. I appreciate you all, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.